Your Washington Commanders are 60 minutes from appearing in a Super Bowl. Let's do this thing. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Pop, what's going on, man?
Son, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Fired up. Cannot believe we've got another pregame podcast going on, man. We might be recording pregame podcasts until June. It's unbelievable.
Things are getting so crazy. I had to go back on the lam.
Yeah, Pop had to do
Time
it. Pop had to escape.
from Lions and Eagles fans.
Yeah, man. It's dangerous out there. Be ready. Be ready at all costs. Things could get spooky.
A little road game going.
Come around the corner. Yep. Got a lot of fun going on. Pop's working on his road game in solidarity for the Commanders who've been on the road on this crazy playoff win streak. But guys, welcome to the channel. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe if you are here. Drop a comment if you've been enjoying these pregame podcasts. If you're new, just let us know where you're coming from and how you're feeling about it. We always love to hear it. And bring those Commanders some good juju, man. Bring the views up. This has been a pretty special season. Don't forget, stay tuned for Bada Bets. We're going to pick both the NFC and the AFC championship games, although I got a feeling you know where we're going to go for at least one of them, right?
The boys on point, man. Sticking to the outline.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what do you say we get to it, man? Let's hit this. We start every podcast off with a vibe check for those of you who are new. And, I mean, how could the vibes be anything other than spectacular after last weekend?
It's just mind blowing. I feel like doing the pod a day later, even though it was for good reason. I think we lost a little bit of the just absolute, just incredible vibe that came off that game. It's like, it's just unbelievable to think about being 4-13 with just massive holes in the roster and having a 1-year turnaround like this. And yes, it's in great part due to Jaden Daniels, but I think the coaching he's received, not just from, we kind of got adverse to the word culture change, but I think that he's totally bought into Dan Quinn and the messages that he's sending. I think the additions to the roster that were made, I can hardly imagine a better offseason than what Adam Peters put together.
Oh, it's
and just that combination of just veterans and young guys and guys that are maybe middle of their career. It just was a masterclass. And still, with all of that, we thought that we'd have a competitive team. We thought we might get 9, 10 wins, maybe sneak into a wild card, maybe best case win a playoff game. This is something different. This is something that I don't still appreciate how well, I don't think we appreciate how well this team is playing, how good they actually are. And teams are more than just, you hear about this, like, you love music, I love music, you're a musician, I'm not. You talk about a great band being greater, the sum of the parts are greater than the individual musicians. The individual musicians as standalone, you look at them and you go, they might not be great. Maybe there's one great songwriter that's the Jaden Daniels of the band. But then the sum of the parts, the way those parts fit together, the vibe of that group, the way that they're executing the plan, playing mistake-free football, just ends up in a great band. And that's good. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not.
It is. I think so, man. The team chemistry is there. And that's what I think is special about the team, is the way it's all coming together. And you see guys from past regimes that were written off or maybe never lived up to their full potential, like guys like De'Ami Brown, guys like Quan Martin, heck, even guys like Chris Rodriguez, when he's been put on the football field, have been all sensational in this run and added things to this run that would not have been there without them developing and sticking with it and buying in to what Dan Quinn has brought to the table. I mean, Quan Martin, I'm sitting here today looking at our secondary and going between Lattimore, Mikey Sanders-Still, Noah Igbenogany, Quan Martin, and Jeremy Chin. I don't know that I want to. I mean, maybe there's a better depth guy we can get for a fourth corner than a St. Juice or anything like that. But I don't even know that I want to add a cornerback at this point. I feel like that cornerback room has developed into a great unit of DBs that plays really well together. I mean, it's easy for vibes to be really high after Jared Goff throws 3 picks, but at a certain point, like how many times has he done that this year? Really once. Other than us, and that's against Houston, who has like one of the best, if not the best, secondaries in the NFL. It's really special stuff what we've been able to do on the defensive side of the ball as of late, in my opinion, and offensively. I mean, it gets almost tired to talk about, but the kid is unbelievable. I mean, Jaden Daniels is just sensational. He's the best rookie we've seen in the NFL probably ever. Probably in contention for the best rookie across all of sports. I mean, he's just unbelievable. There's only so many good things you could say about him without repeating what everybody's said about him.
I don't know if there's ever been a better rookie season in sports history, not just the NFL. Yeah.
And it has potential to become not even a conversation.
Go through the stratosphere.
So it's unbelievable. And a huge step to that would be this game against Philly. I will say, man, I love that everybody's fired up and talking about what if we made a Super Bowl? What if we made a Super Bowl? We could go to the Super Bowl 60 minutes from the Super Bowl. Too much Super Bowl talk for me. I'll be honest. That's my vibes right now. I don't like the juju around all the fans acting like we're not walking into who's been one of the best teams, in my opinion. I said it all year. I thought they were the best team in the NFC. I thought they were one of the best teams in the NFL. So we're walking into the Lions then, man. And not that we didn't do it last week and not that we can't do it again, but these are two teams in pretty different positions. The Lions obviously pretty banged up last week, pretty banged up towards the end of the season. That defense was not up to par with what it was early in the year, missing their marquee guys like Aiden Hutchinson. And this Eagles defense is sensational. I mean, this is the best defensive unit in football across all 17 games this year. Probably the best defensive unit in football in the postseason. I don't have the numbers readily available, but I'm going to assume so.
Put up 36 points on them.
We did put up 36 points on them last time we played while having 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
So, if you figure those 5 turnovers, make it conservative. Let's say those 5 turnovers took 10 points off the board. You're talking about scoring 46 points on the Eagles. So it's anybody's game. I don't like to talk about how, we beat Detroit, so we're going to walk in and roll them. I know that's not how the boys in the building are thinking. I hate that some of the fan base is thinking that way. I love that we're inspired and we're confident. At the same time, though, man, these Eagles are good, so we're going to have to do the right thing. But we're still
underdogs than we deserve to be.
Yeah,
that's how I would agree. Sign up for it. And I don't feel a whole lot differently going into this Eagles game than I did against going into the Lions, personally. I don't feel overly confident that it's a tough matchup. That's a tough game. And when you can make the argument that we're a really good team too, which I think we've proven to be, but so are they. And, it's going to come down to, the team that makes the less mistakes, the team that takes advantage of the opportunities. I think mistakes and big plays, right? That mistakes and explosives, those are the 2 things that, are going to be the difference. And I think that it's foolish to say that this is, anything but an uphill battle. And, I have no issue with them being favorites. And I think that it's a game we can win.
I think so too.
I would say I didn't feel any different. I would disagree with that. although I would still go into this game saying we're underdogs and gunned ahead, I would, being neutral about it, I would give Philly the edge. I feel more confident in our ability to beat Philly than I did going into the Detroit game. Our ability to beat Detroit. Only because division opponent, we've played twice already. We've proven, despite lots of mistakes, that we can put up points against their great defense. I think we know how to plan for one another. I'm sure they're gonna do some things to try to counteract and stop Jaden. But having said that, I'd still give them the edge. In this matchup.
I mean, for me, it comes down to one thing for us, and the reason why I feel so consistently confident is Jaden's development has just been. I mean, we thought he was good before the playoffs started, and aside from one idiot, everybody else has seen
there's more than one, I'm sure.
Exponential growth from this guy. It's just been incredible. I mean, it's been the growth over the course of the playoffs, because in the playoffs, that's when you install the blitz packages that you don't run all year. In the playoffs, that's when you sell out on your philosophies and you throw stuff at guys that they don't expect. In Tampa, they blitzed the crap out of them all day long. All they did was blitz, throwing all kinds of different blitzes at him. He was so efficient. He was so smart against it. He knew when to use his legs. He knew when to get the ball out. He knew when to throw the ball away. He didn't force it. You didn't see him get rattled. You never know. I think it was Brian Baldinger, who's a huge Jaden Daniels fan. He's always hyping him up on Twitter. You said you watch the guy's tape and you don't know if it's a preseason game or if it's the last drive of the Super Bowl. He is the same guy the whole way through. You have no idea what down and distance, how important of a moment in the game it is when you watch him play. He is just solid. That poise blew me away against Tampa Bay. And then against Detroit, I mean, they go complete opposite from what you'd expect. Aaron Glenn likes to blitz you. You think they're going to bring the blitz, right? They start off super soft, backing everything off. And Jaden just 5 yards here, 5 yards there, 3 yards here, take a screen, taking what they're giving to him. Reading the ball. I watched a breakdown earlier today. Detroit was showing, there was one play in particular where Detroit's showing a man look pre-snap, and they switch into a zone look, and the play that's aligned there is a man-beating play. It's not the play you would call if you think you're in zone, right? And they run it's the deep shot on the crosser down to Diami on the left sideline, not the bomb that he hit, but the deep shot he hit earlier in the game before that. And you see the post-snap processing, realizing it's in zone. On this side, we have a defender, we have a player in the flat that's going to hold that cornerback down, and once I have the opportunity for it to develop, that's going to come up, and you see that poise. That's a situation that veteran quarterbacks would freak out in, right? You get something different post-snap that you expected. You check into the play pre-snap that you think is going to beat what's there. You don't. And it's just incredible. The moment's never too big for him. I mean, just the little things down to like the VR that he does. Not only does he do that VR, that's been a big story in the last week. We've reported on it for months now, talking about that he's using it. Did you know, Pop, he sets it to every stadium that he plays in every week, so that he knows where all the play clocks are and he knows what the layout's going to be and where things are going to be coming from. It's incredible. I mean, the kid is like, it's like we've got like a cyborg at quarterback, and the numbers reflect it. I mean, he has the most passing yards of any playoff quarterback with 567 yards, which all year I've been saying.
Quarterback.
Yeah. Exactly. All year, I've been saying his numbers passing-wise don't reflect how good he is as a passer, because he doesn't need to do it as much because he can also run. Now we're starting to see those gaudy numbers catch up to it as well. He's tied for the most passing touchdowns with 4. His 86.8 quarterback rating is also the best among all postseason quarterbacks, almost 6 points higher than your MVP in Josh Allen at 80.9. It's just... He's just sensational.
It's ridiculous. And I was hearing Jay Gruden's breakdown of the game. I love listening to Jay. And he was just saying,
Jay's the man.
It's ridiculous what he's doing, his ability to process his decision making. We get to a point now where, we can nitpick certain decisions here and there, but his decision making is so good. His accuracy throwing the ball is so good. What he does is he takes a defense's soul. I think the best picture. I mean, there's so many great moments in that last game, right? And he was passing the ball down the field. But that fourth down, that he converted to set up the he just takes the soul of a defense. They get so frustrated because if you blitz him, he's got the best rating against the blitz. He crushes the blitz. If you sit back, he can beat you with his legs. You got to spy him. And, I got to stop for a minute. I just got to give credit. You can't get a much easier pass than that pass to Terry, where he takes it down the field. I think Austin Eckler has been making guys miss and being dynamic in the passing game. You've seen De'Ami Brown really step up. I mean, Ertz, it just seems to always be in the right spot. He seems to find the soft spots in the defense. He's wide open. Yeah, he's not, great after catch, but I think that there are a lot of other guys stepping up. He brought up the defense and the ability to turn over. Look, I think a lot of guys on this roster, especially, with this type of run getting to the NFC Championship, are going to make it really difficult on this team to move on from them. But we know that there is opportunity to improve this roster, there's opportunity to improve the offensive line. This defense gets moved on week after week after week. The Eagles defense is so much better than ours at the end of the day, right? But it's like you said, there's something magical. There's something going on with the team as a whole. But I think there's a lot of guys stepping up. You brought Sandstrom up. You brought Quan Martin up. You brought Jeremy Chin, the way he's balling, Luvu, Wagner, even many guys on the defensive line. I think these defensive ends, it's been defensive end by committee, but it's worked. We talked about that in the preseason. We said it's going to be defensive end by committee. Different guys are going to step up at different times. I mean, Armstrong and there's just Fowler. I was struggling to find names. These guys are just creating havoc out there. They're playing good, really good ball.
I mean, if you look at the secondary, lowest passer rating allowed in coverage during the divisional round. We have 3 guys in the top 10. Number 1 is Quan Martin. Number 5 is Mike Sanderstill. And number 7 is Marshawn Lattimore. And combined, I mean, Quan is 0 for 1 with 1 interception. Mike Sanderstill 2 for 5, 32 yards and 2 interceptions. And they were throwing at him all day because they couldn't throw the ball at Marshawn Lattimore because they had one single target to Marshawn Lattimore. So, Sam still holding to only 25 yards there is incredible. And then on top of that, playoff receiving leaders, if you look at that, De'Ami Brown leads the NFL in receiving yards right now with 187 yards in the playoffs. And number 2 is Terry McLaurin with 176. I mean, can you believe that? We were joking about De'Ami Brown. When we got on here, we said, I wonder who's going to wear the number 2 6 months ago. We said he was going to get cut. I got on here screaming to cut him for months. The turnaround's unbelievable. The vibes are high. Things are great. Bottom line is, there's no better way for this thing to end than to go up to Philly, whoop some ass, close the series, and make it to the Super Bowl. There's no better
So
way
let's talk some Philly.
This story.
Let's talk some Philly.
Obviously, you all know at this point, if you're still here through 20 minutes, you got to know at this point. We split the regular season games. Obviously, we lost in Philly 26-18. Jaden's ribs were banged up. That game was a lot closer than it ended up. Reflecting on the scoreboard, things just kind of got out of hand late, and then we got a garbage time touchdown. It was a mess. They kind of rolled over at the end of that game.
They broke us down.
Jaden's ribs.
They broke us down.
But yeah, they were the better team that night, and they beat us for sure. That was a gut check for this team. And then 36-33 win at home with that last minute score. Obviously, Hurts goes out. And we've had to hear from Eagles fans every week since, because apparently they have nothing else to do other than tweet at Commanders fans. We've had to hear from Eagles fans every week since about how Jalen Hurts was hurt. Well, guess what? He got himself hurt again. He's going to be playing hurt this weekend. But either way, we had to hear about how that win doesn't count. So for me, there's no better way to end this season than to go up to Philly and to beat them at home.
End the season.
Jalen Hurts playing. Well, wouldn't end the season. There's no better way to get to the ultimate goal, which is to make that Super Bowl. There's no better way to do that than to go through this. That's what I'm trying to say. The boy's been awake for 14 hours. My brain's running on hot right now. But speaking of which, no rest for the wicked. Let's get right into that Eagles scouting report, my signature segment of the week. It's funny. What more is there to say about the Eagles at this point? Saquon Barkley's the best player in football. Jalen Hurts is a relatively limited down the field passer, as he's shown in the last year, but he seems to just make the throw when he has to for whatever reason. Great wide receivers in A.J. Brown, who's been dead quiet this postseason, and Devontae Smith as well. Interesting stat. I've saw something about Jalen Hurts has never thrown more than 200 yards in a conference championship game. I'd have to check that. I saw something about that online.
How many has he played in?
A few, because they went to it a couple. I don't know. You threw me off there with that question, but probably two. I think this will be his third. So enough for there to be a little interesting nugget there. But at the end of the day, best player on that football field is Saquon Barkley, and not too far behind is Jalen Carter, their defensive tackle. They will be missing Nakobe Dean, the linebacker, who made some really key plays in both of those games. And I know they're kind of banged up at cornerback as well, although it looks like Quinyon Mitchell is going to be good to go. But that's always interesting when you get those cornerbacks coming right off an injury or that are a little banged up. You always wonder how much better a guy going at 70% speed is than a lesser guy going at 100% speed. It'll be interesting to see. But that's the situation there. My biggest concern when it comes to this Eagles defense, the Eagles team, is the trenches. I think if we can win, particularly in the offensive trenches, we win this game. If we can protect Jaden Daniels and we can establish the run on this defensive line, we win this game. That's what I really think it comes down to. But that Eagles defensive line is terrifying, man. And it does not help. It does not help that they have probably a top three. I guess Chris Jones exists, but a top three best defensive tackle in football in Jalen Carter. I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, just a complete game wrecker. Dexter Lawrence comes to mind too. And we have him matching up against who will probably be Trent Scott at that right guard position, who, to Trent Scott's credit, did not miss a beat when Cosby went down. He played really well last week. But it's a different animal across you from this week. So we've got to have a plan for Jalen Carter. I assume they will. They've done a pretty good job of game planning for that kind of thing as of late. And who knows? Maybe Jaden has to juke him on a 1st and 10 run out of his shoes to slow down.
A tough blow for the boys, for the Commanders for sure. The loss of Sam Cosby with a torn ACL, so that's a tough one. But I think they've got weapons, right? And it hurts, although he struggled a bit in the passing game. He can still make plays down the field with those great receivers. So I like the fact that Lattimore is back and seems to have had a really good game and got a couple of games under his belt. I think he's going to definitely help and gets to go up against A.J. Brown again and maybe make up for what wasn't a great performance the last time around. And maybe we'll scheme it up a little bit different too. But that's a tough group out there in Philly, no doubt about it. Much respect for that team. And we got a battle ahead of us. And we're going to tell you exactly how we can win this game.
Yeah, Pop's got these keys drawn up. You guys know how this goes. I'll always add to them as we go. But key number one of the game is going to be containing Saquon Barkley. We've got to minimize explosive plays and force Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm. Like I said, that's certainly the weak point of this offense. I'm willing to get up on here and put my hand up if Jalen throws for, 350 yards and scorches us in the secondary. But I just don't see that happening. And you've got to contain Saquon Barkley to force Jalen Hurts to make those plays with his arm, because I will add to this, he's immobile right now. He's hurt that knee. He clearly was not right at the end of that game. He took that safety that he probably would have been able to scramble out of in other situations. It looked like a pretty tough knee injury. Eagles are obviously playing it very close to the vest. Obviously not, saying that you want him to be hurt. I want him fully healthy, but it's the reality of the situation is he's at least sore and perhaps hampered a little bit. And that means you got to blitz him. You got to blitz the crap out of him. He can't get out of it the way he might be able to.
He plays a really physical style of ball. And, if you watch Jaden Daniels play the position, he tries to avoid putting himself in position to take those big hits. He occasionally does, but he doesn't, he doesn't necessarily try to take those high risk chances. He gets himself out of bounds. He gets down. If it's a matter of him diving for a first down, to keep a drive alive, he's going to do that, of course, right? Yep. But yeah, I think he just plays a physical style of ball, and it's banged him up. I've always been a big Jalen Hurts fan. I think he's a heck of a good football player, but he's got to be able to use his legs, right, to really be at the full power of his game. And yeah, I think on the Saquon stuff, it really comes down to minimize. You're not going to stop him.
No.
But, we've seen the situation where these backs like Gibbs and Saquon and others come out really strong and really fast in the first half. And then we seem to make adjustments. We don't do a very good job of setting the edge in the first half. And then suddenly it just changes. I don't know if, we just load more people in the box, whatever adjustments we're making at halftime. We need to make them from the beginning of the game. And, we've got to do a better job, in that situation. Having said that, guys like him and Gibbs and 22 up in Baltimore, they're hard to stop,
Yeah. And a great way to mitigate that is to get ahead early and steal some possessions, which is our second key. It's the most important key here, is that the ball is life. Continue to win that turnover battle. There were 0 turnovers combined between the 4 teams from last
winning
weekend.
Teams, yeah.
0 turnovers combined from the 4 winning teams. And we saw the way turnovers hurt the Lions. We saw the way turnovers hurt the Ravens. It is brutal. That is, at this time of the year, the margins are so thin because you are playing against such good teams that are so finely tuned and ready to capitalize on a situation like that. You cannot turn the ball over. So for me, it's just as important that we protect the ball, considering that we turned the ball over 5 times against Philly last time. So it's just as important that we protect the ball.
Gotta play a clean game. Yeah.
As it is that we got to take the ball away from Philly a couple of times. And Hurts has been known to throw a pick. He's been known to fumble. Like you could turn the guy over. And if you have the same kind of mindset of turning Hurts over that you had with Goff, and you could kind of apply that tape, that would be special. And I think you've got to get at least a couple, because then they start to press. You get up in a situation where you're up 10, they can't necessarily just keep. A lot of teams will start to get away from the run in a situation like that, where you're up 10, you're up 14, you're up 17 early. Teams will start to run away from the run there. And that's a great opportunity for us to do that, is to turn that ball over. So that's going to be very important.
It's a great point about them pressing, because the one advantage we have this year, which we're not going to have next year and the years to come, is the Eagles are battling high expectations. There's an expectation that they go to the Super Bowl. And the Lions had an expectation that they were going to crush us and go to the Super Bowl. I think the Eagles team know better, because they've seen this team play. They've seen what we can do. I'm sure if they were, given a truth serum, they know they're up against the battle this week. But they've got expectations. They've got the burden of expectations to win this game and to go to the Super Bowl. We don't. We're playing with house money. If this season ends this weekend, we can do nothing but celebrate and say how great it was and how amazing it was and how bright the future was. And we can use that to our advantage. Make them start pressing, which I think feeds into the next key, right?
Yeah. Now, I will say, next year, and every year henceforth at this point, is going to be Super Bowl or bust for these boys. So let's go get one while we're loose and just kind of having fun, right?
Exactly.
So that key number 3 is going to be to keep that offense rolling. We've got to sustain drives and finish versus that tough Eagles defense. We were able to hang 36 on them, turning the ball over 5 times last time we played. I have no doubts we'll be able to continue to do that this time. I hope so.
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I've got a lot of confidence in our ability to move the ball on offense. It may not always be pretty. It may start rough, but what this offense seems to be able to do, a lot of it due to Jaden, is wear teams down. And you see it late in games. You see it late in games, the ability to keep moving the ball, to put up points because it wears teams down. They just chip away at you, and then the ability to make the big play, the effectiveness in the shorter game. I don't know how well we're going to be able to run the ball, but I also am going to say I don't know that it matters. As long as we're able to mix it up and keep the chains rolling, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial. I think the biggest thing for me is going to be staying ahead of the sticks penalty wise. Let's stay out of those false starts on first down. Let's stay out of those having to waste timeouts because we can't get the play call in. That's what I liked about that game against Detroit, man. It was such a clean operation. We had the one junk false start on Biadish that was not a false start, and I'm sure the NFL will send a little letter and say, my bad, but that doesn't change anything. NFL, get your calls right, and you have people to tell you that your calls are wrong in real time, so fix them, whatever. But I think we got to play a clean game like that penalty-wise. I think that's just as important in terms of keeping the offense rolling, staying ahead of the sticks. That's what gave me that confidence when Detroit was up, and when it was even looking like Detroit was going to go up 14-3. I was still feeling confident in that moment because we were playing a clean game up until that point. We just hadn't broke through yet. So the one thing I will say, last thing I will say before we get in our Bada Bets here is, listen, man, if you get into a grinder with this team, you can't let them have the ball last. If we have the ball last, we're going to win. So you can't get into a defensive grinder with them. And if you want to run with this team, we've seen the way this team could score points. We score points better than any team in the league that's left right now. So what's the recipe, man? You got to just keep Jaden on the bench for 10 minutes a quarter? Is that the recipe? I don't see, you got to run the ball, which teams will do, and then we adjust and we stop it. And even then, when you give the ball back to us, we just score. So, I don't know. I think I'm feeling pretty confident about our game plan as well. We can maybe transition that into the Bada Bets, get into it here. But I think we got a pretty good shot at this one, and I'm excited to watch it unfold and hopefully have a crazy next couple of weeks as this all unfolds.
It's really hard to even fathom, honestly. So yeah, let's just focus on this Eagles game, see what we can get done. But using those 2 words you mentioned earlier in the podcast that starts with an S and B, I personally have a hard time even talking about it because it's just so mind-boggling that we can even be in that conversation.
Yeah, so, I mean, I said it at the beginning of the year when we were 4-2 and we were just mowing teams. When we were 7-2 and we were just mowing teams over. I said, I don't know if it's possible to sustain this, and I don't think it is. But if we can, there's no limit. And credit to Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn and De'Ami Brown and Adam Peters and Joe Witt Jr. and everybody involved and Cliff Kingsbury. They found a way to do it. And so it's thrilling to be here. Let's make it worth it because you know what? You can't take these kinds of opportunities for granted. Ask Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn made it to a Super Bowl with a loaded Falcons defense and was fired a few years later. So you've got to capitalize when you're there. You've got to shoot your shot. I think we're in the position to take one. Let's do it. And without further ado, let's get into our Bada Bets segment. Guys, welcome back to the Bada Bets. Last week, we were not so great. I was 1-2-1, which puts me at 55, 46, and 2 for the year. Pop was 2-1-1, which puts him at 53, 48, and 2 for the year. What was the push? Was it the
Eagles game?
Eagles game?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough.
6 points. Yep.
The Texans game was a bad beat with that missed extra point.
The Chiefs taking a safety.
It was just a
But I did get the nod on that one.
Well,
that's the one I got the nod on.
The block field goal at the end. We both rode with the Ravens.
But if you want to hear the recap, go back to the last pod.
Yeah.
I even got a short out on the Bada Bets, so you can hear all our picks. But
there you go.
Let's pick some championship games.
Let's pick some championship games. So only 2 games left this weekend. Crazily enough, man. These NFL seasons fly by.
It's crazy. We're only picking 2 games.
Sunday at 3, and that we're in one of them is nuts.
Yeah.
But Sunday at 3 p.m., Commanders, Eagles. Eagles are 6-point favorites. We're going to roll with the boys.
We're going to pick our boys. So we can, I got to roll with them. I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. It'll be mind-blowing if it happens, but I think this is going to be a battle.
I think so too. But 6 points is too much.
I agree.
Taking the Commanders for sure.
I agree.
I love it though. Make it 9.5. Do me a favor. Make it 9.5 again. See what happens. AFC Championship.
Underdogs.
Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs are 2-point favorites. Pop, is this Josh Allen's year to do it?
I'm rolling with the Chiefs. I think there are more. Honestly, people want to hate on the Chiefs and they want to say it's Taylor Swift conspiracy and the refs are helping them out. Miss me with all that. I couldn't disagree with all you more. I know that there's people listening to this pod right now that strongly disagree with me. It's not a conspiracy, people. They've got the best quarterback in the league, maybe the best to ever do it. They've got really good playmakers. They've got 2 excellent running backs. They've got one of the best tight ends to ever do it, despite who his girlfriend is. They've got a great defense, great defensive coordinator, and they've probably got the best coach in football that doesn't get enough credit, believe it or not. So if you think the Chiefs are anything but the best team in football, you're just fooling yourself, and it's kind of loser talk by you. Get your team better. Have them go beat them. Bills are a good team. I feel like the Chiefs are just a more complete team. When you talk about defense, coaching, quarterback, Bills got a great quarterback. Could they beat the Chiefs? Sure they could. But I'm rolling with the Chiefs.
Strong from Pop there. Strong. I'll roll with the Chiefs too.
Did I convince you? Did I turn you around?
You did. I'm rooting for the Bills. Me.
I get that.
So this whole season,
I could care less who wins that game. I really could care less.
So I'm conflicted because on one hand, I want to see Jaden and Pat, and I want to beat Pat. On the other hand, I've been rooting for the Bills alongside the Commanders all year.
I'd rather play the Bills.
When this whole magical Commanders season started, I was walking my dog Carlo in his Commanders jersey with my Jaden Daniels jersey on, and I kept bumping into my neighbor. And finally one day he says to me, he goes, "Hey man, who do you guys play?" And me and my neighbor get to know each other. My buddy Adam, we become friends. Now we text every Sunday about the games. He's a Bills fan. And a few weeks ago we said, "Hey man, what about a Frontier Bowl? What if we did it? What if we ran it back?
Rematch of the 1992 Super Bowl."
Yeah, and now we're 1 game away from that happening, or 2 games away from that happening. So I know he's going to be pulling for us. I'm pulling for his boys for strictly competitive purposes in the Bada Bets. I can't bet against the Chiefs, but I hope I'm wrong. It'll
be a battle. I thought the Ravens were the better team against the Bills. They just made too many mistakes. Talking about how mistakes kill you. So I think the Chiefs are the best in the AFC until proven different. I'm going to roll with them. Yeah.
I like it. We're both going Chiefs there, although my heart will be in Buffalo. But let's wrap this thing up.
My focus is on 3 o'clock on Sunday.
Me too. To be honest with you, we went 3 o'clock on Sunday. I'm just going to be.
May not even watch.
I'll watch, but I'm not going to remember much of it. I'll leave it at that.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, appreciate all the support, all those great comments coming in. Keep them coming. But let's go get this win. Let's go get this W. Let's do the impossible. Why not us? Anywhere, anyhow, anytime. How's it go?
It's
something like that.
I think it's anytime, anywhere, anybody, or something like that, or anytime, anybody, anywhere.
I was close.
Place. What a disaster! What a disaster! I mean, I've looked it up and tried to memorize it like 4 times this week. We might as well.
What kind of fans are we? My goodness. Anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Anybody, anywhere, anytime. All right. Let's wrap this thing up.
We'll edit that. Don't worry.
I'm leaving that in. Let me give my, I'm going to have to edit out when I roll my eyes at Pop at the beginning of the podcast because I said, "You ready?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I hit record. And then he goes, "Wait."
It was an official start.
Anyways, guys, your Washington Commanders.
Tight 30 minutes.
And it's stuff like that extends us.
All right, let's go. Let's wrap it.
Guys,
wrap it.
I'm working on it. Give me 30 seconds. I can have 30 more seconds. Your Washington Commanders are 60 minutes from appearing in a Super Bowl. Let's do this thing. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Let's wrap this thing up, everybody. And hail to the Commanders.
Hail, let's do it.